We have Tech in Asia, Startup Thailand. The topic is about how Thailand's investment landscape is evolving. So we will have Montida Makul, investment partner, Cocoon Capital's partners, and also Sompot Chan Somboon, managing director of DTAC Accelerate. We will also have Albert Shai, principal of Berda Principal Investments Asia, and the moderator will be Valerie Inting from Tech in Asia. So if you're ready, please welcome on stage.
Thanks so much for joining us on the panel today, guys. Yeah, what a wonderful afternoon. Startup Thailand has been amazing so far. So I guess we're really just here to talk about one thing, which would be the present and the future of Thailand's investment landscape. But as I said, I think I told you guys, whenever we want to talk about the present and the future, I always want to begin in the past. Okay. So I wanted to talk about what first brought you guys to Thailand? What was your first investment, I guess particularly for Albert or for Ming, since you're based here, what was your first investment back then? So I want to start with you because we're going down the investment panel, the funnel of we are, right? We have an accelerator program, then seed funding and Series B and above. So let's start with Ming.
Okay, my first investment in Thailand because we are in Thailand. So we DTAC here is our 5th year already. We found in 2013. Our first investment is sitting over there, that guy, taking a photo, fast inflow, which is our first batch. And after that, along the way, now we have 34 investment under portfolio already, and reaching 3.2 billion Thai baht portfolio under our evaluations. And they're growing 500% on the average each year, which is good.
And Montida?
I started getting involved in the Thai tech community when I joined JFDI in Singapore, an accelerator. And they invested in a handful of Thai startups like Style Hunt, ShopSpot, to name a few. Fast forward, I'm now with Cocoon Capital. We invest in early stage, seed stage for innovative technology. And of course, Thailand is one of our key markets.
I have 34 companies for you. You can invest one.
No problem. We can talk offline.
Hi. So for me, actually, my first experience with the Thai tech ecosystem was on the operating side when I joined Lazada back in 2013. And so even at that time, while I was responsible for Lazada regionally in a couple of different areas, I think I saw already the opportunity and the momentum for Thai e-commerce. I mean, it's of course a smaller market demographically versus Indonesia, but at the time, it was doing much better than Indonesia, and I think it continues to be a very strong market for Lazada.
Still is.
And so I think that's kind of carried on into the when I moved on to the VC side as well. Thailand has continued to be an ecosystem that I've been tracking pretty closely. And when we made an investment at Berda last year in Priza, obviously that's a price comparison side in doing e-commerce. And so I think we kind of continue to have a strong belief in e-commerce in particular in Thailand.
So it's a great transition actually. So your vertical was in e-commerce, and I think we were talking about it backstage earlier. It's also in healthcare. Yeah. For Montida, your first investments would be in e-commerce as well, or? Style Hunt would be in e-commerce, yeah. And ShopSpot.
Ad tech.
Ad tech.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you guys think that these are still the same focus verticals that we're going to be looking at in 2017 or in the next few years in Thailand?
Actually, for us, it's different. We're looking at anything awesome. anything mobile, anything internet, anything that can create impact for more than like 1 million lives. Like in general, not only like have to be like related to telco or anything. Like we have like vary from fintech, e-commerce. We have agriculture tech, like the guy who using the machine learning AI, scanning the landscape and giving the loan. Those kind of stuff we also looking for, and anything that can create impact for like 1 million lives, that is good enough already for the Thai people. And at the end of the day, right, if they are good, they can growing, they can sustainable their business, they can become like Uber, Airbnb somehow. Yep.
But where do you see like the most awesome, like the most amount of awesome right now in terms of verticals?
Okay, I put it this way. Obviously, Thailand is like a wave of the Southeast Asia. Previously, like in US, like a fintech last 5 or 10 years ago. Now it's like past 2-3 years ago, like a fintech. Healthcare, health tech is happening over there. I saw the healthcare, health tech is happening from the end of last year until now. Like last year, we have like more than like 600 applications applying. I would say like the healthcare sector is growing like triple from my previous year. So like the healthcare is coming, AI, VR is coming. The fintech still there, but not that much compared to the couple years ago. Yeah.
Albert, I'd imagine you'd agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us actually, we have a kind of a delayed perception of the ecosystem versus my co-panelists, because I think, well, you guys are looking at stuff kind of very early stage and on the ground. We're looking now at companies that maybe have raised the Series A 1 or 2 years ago, and so for us right now, actually, e-commerce is still all the rage, and we're looking at a lot of companies that have, I think, shown good growth and have raised a lot of funding over the past few years. And I think we'll start to see more fintech coming up maybe in the next 12 to 18 months. But we're definitely kind of further behind the curve than some of the others here.
So as the one in the middle of this curve, Montida.
Yeah, so I suppose, what we look at is we are quite open to various verticals, right? So for us, our focus would be on more B2B enablers. We like logistics, we like different marketplaces and platform. But what you said made a lot of sense, where previously there were a lot of investments that went into e-commerce, and now as it gained a lot of traction and grow and mature through, and now it's going to him. So now coming from you, like you said, during the past few years, it's been fintech, and now we're seeing a lot of health tech, ed tech coming on as well. So I'll be looking more from on the health
Albert
tech
should
and
be
ed tech.
expecting that in a few
years. Correct.
So currently, right, those are where you guys are expecting the investments to heat up. I guess this morning, like Omise gave us something to talk about as well.
Yes. It's a good partnership with us.
I know.
The DTAC.
Yes, they just acquired their news of an acquisition came from DTAC as well. So $25 million of funding through an ICO. Do you think that trend is going to continue, particularly for Thailand? And do you see that that's going to affect the way you guys invest in the next few years, regardless of like at what stage it is in the funnel?
I would say partnership is one of the key, obviously, right? For example, this year we also launched the program together with our good partnership like Google Launchpad, also the Muang Thai Life Insurance, which is the number one insurance in Thailand, and I believe it's one of the top 3 in CLMV. So they are partnered with us. So this kind of partnership happening, it's like consolidation, collaboration, partnership, M&As, investment, co-invest, will be happening for sure. But at the end of the day, it's like it's for me, for myself, at the detail, I said it's still not affect our vision that we want to invest the Thai startup who are looking can create the impact to the society, not for the CSR, of course. If they have impact for CSR, it's good, but have to make money as well. So if they have the impact for the customer, 1 million customer, why not, right? And once we also have those partnership together, like for example, the deal like Omise and Pesaba is a really good synergy, right? We both have a very strong side in product and technology and things like that. We combine together is a very good one. Yeah, we still can see this upcoming for sure. Yep.
Will ICOs replace seed funding?
For myself, because I'm investing in the early stage and also seed and some follow-on funding in Series A, it's still, for myself, I believe in the next 2 to 3 years still there. to still there. But ICO is really interesting, and
I
we
think
need
the-
some like.
Yeah, I think the impact, you won't see the impact that immediate. This is one of the first, and of course it's very exciting, especially coming from Thailand, and congratulations to DTAC. But I feel that the impact will not be that immediate, that's one. And also, for seed stage, especially where Cocoon is concerned, we're a small fund. And our secret sauce is we get really involved with the founders to help them to turn founders into CEOs. So, with our involvement and engagement, it will not affect how we're looking for investments in the near future, for sure.
I think just one more thing to add on is, I think from an entrepreneur's perspective, it can definitely be another channel to raise funding. And I think, because fundraising is so difficult and so time-consuming, if there's another way that that they have access to capital, then certainly many of them will look into that and see whether it makes sense for them or not. I think from an investor perspective, at least for us, it's still obviously very early, as everyone has said. So we're obviously interested to learn about it, but I think at the same time, especially since we obviously have responsibilities to our LPs and investors, we also are a bit cautious about whether that's a channel that makes sense for us or not. So I think too early to tell is the cop-out answer, but.
Yeah, and another facet of our relationship with the early stage VCs and the startups is that we want to cultivate a relationship. It's going to be a long journey. We want to make sure that we can share, the trials and the tribulations, and we can be more engaging, help you to network, help you run through budget, hiring, strategy, the whole lot. So there's a lot of interactions involved, FaceTime, that would give the startup a higher probability of being successful in the long run.
In that case, right, I want to go back a bit to what Ming was talking about earlier when he was emphasizing how important partnerships are to the ecosystem. So do you ever envision that there will be a partnership model that can bring on startups that choose to raise funding via ICOs or tokens, but in a sense, VCs and investors will still be able to provide the mentorship at the back end?
To be honest, ICO in Southeast Asia is pretty new. And our good friend Omise is trying. So obviously we need to wait and see, and we can see what is upcoming. But and in the ecosystem, we need to see some use case or some success story. So back in Indiegogo and Kickstarter, when they happened at the beginning, it's crowdsourcing, and at that time everyone is still doubt what is happening, and whether someone will do dodgy thing, get the money back, and don't do the stuff. So need to take a bit timing to prove that model. But I personally believe ICO is a good way, another option for some founder to raise the fund. But again, back to your questions, those partnership and things. At the early stage, we have to admit that, and honestly, that a lot of our partners, they also don't understand what these ICO things happening, right? Especially the big corporate that we partner with the startup, even ourselves in this industry, we still okay, we don't know much about this ICO. We didn't do at the beginning, but if it's good, why not to try, right? So we open for that as well. Yeah.
I think never say never, right? Never say never. Just like the other speaker was saying about the invention of cars, never thought in that invention of aeroplanes, and geez, so never say never. But again, it's very early yet. We'll see how that goes. And of course, like Albert said, it's another channel for the startup to get funding. Why not? Because it's hard. It's fun, especially given this current environment. It's really hard.
I guess in terms of partnerships and support, we got to bring it back to why we are here. So we're in Startup Thailand because the Ministry of Science and Tech, along with NIA, they created this platform for people to be able to discuss. So clearly, this is part and parcel of a larger initiative by the government to try and support startups and move that ecosystem forward. So the question I want to ask is it enough? Do you guys think that this is enough?
I would say some enough, some is not enough, okay. Both sides. Especially funding, I would put it this way, funding for the Thai ecosystem or even in Southeast Asia, for the good startup, put it that way, the good startup, I think is more than enough. it's just only a lot of funds there. We have this one beautiful ladies and one gentleman sitting here. A lot of money in that check, right? And waiting to a good startup come in, everyone to write a check. But the problem is, it's very hard to find a good startup at this day. So a lot of startup wannabe, a lot of like those startups that cannot find the product market fit and get out from the early stage to be growth stage for these guys to invest. So for the funding, if ask me personally, I think it's more than enough. But again, some regulation and some law and regulation, which is like, for good example, like in Singapore and in some Malaysia, some Australia, is very good one, right? So we are a lot of back behind on those countries that like those like convertible note, those kind of stuff, which is we already in the process of discussion with the government that we need.
I could see Montito is nodding just now.
No, I'm just going to follow on to that because, clearly I think Thailand is fantastic that they put on a good show to raise the profile of Thai startups to the global audience here. But, at the same time now, I think it will take all the stakeholders to be more involved and collaborate. Maybe certain questions should be sort of on reflection to see, like, if the investors prefer the startups to be incorporated somewhere else other than Thailand, why? And how can you change that? And how can you make it more appealing for startups to connect and tap funding from overseas investors, given cultural barrier, and language barriers. So just to kind of on the surface, these are just some of the key basic things that we need to kind of go through the hurdle.
What cultural barriers would there be? Oh, no.
I would say one, obviously, languages.
Yeah.
And a lot of good Thai startup. For example, one of the good company under our portfolio, like Jack claimed one of like a Series B startup in our portfolio. Like his business is really good. Everything is like awesome. And he admit to us like my English is not that good, like in terms of pitching or like explaining, but business model is really there. Imagine if there is like some native speaking and talking on this kind of like business about the insurance tech, 60% market share in already first day of launch, talking with some VC in US or with you guys at day one. Why don't you invest, right?
Yeah. And also, the reason I hesitate is, okay, I'm going to say this, but, like, for example, sometimes in communication skills, language is one thing, but the way you communicate and the way you don't communicate, and what is expected of you in terms of when you're dealing with international overseas investors. There are some, standards that you need to be aware of, and etiquette you need to be aware of, and you don't. So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, and the mindset, they don't hustle enough. I find Thai people, we're so nice.
Yes.
We're so nice, and we're kind of like, yeah, I'm doing this thing, so this is, are you interested? Well, maybe it's just too early that okay, thank you. That's it.
Yes.
Right? So I talk to my startups all the time. It's like, no, just how can you engage, monthly newsletter, and if you've got news to broadcast or to tell them, well, don't spam their inbox, for goodness sake, but, be a bit more proactive, be a bit more out there, very thin skin. So, so they need to kind of ramp up on that front as well.
Do you find that true, Albert?
I mean, I would say obviously there are exceptions, but I think on the average, it is, I would say yes, because language is sometimes an issue. Also, I think it's, for better or for worse, entrepreneurs that are good at telling stories, good at pitching, good at selling themselves in the company tend to do better when they're fundraising. And I think, that's something that I think culturally, maybe because there's more, Thai people are oftentimes very modest, and so that's something that is not as inherently strong on average.
We are too nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like chicken and egg, right? The more you do, the better you get.
It's actually so similarly, there's very good Taiwanese entrepreneurs that have great product, great teams, but just A, may not be that great at English, B, may not be that good at selling themselves. And so similarly, you kind of find a similar kind of a conundrum there.
So in general, funding needs to be a two-way process.
Yeah.
So of course, like entrepreneurs will have to make certain adjustments, but from an investor's point of view, how do you guys get around that barrier at the moment? Like especially in terms of being able to reach out to very talented entrepreneurs.
I mean, I think the best way is just to get to know them better over time. So rather than one meeting, and then kind of deciding then whether you want to invest or not, getting to know the entrepreneurs and the company over time. And I think at our stage, Series B, we do have the luxury of, okay, we can meet them at the seed stage, at the Series A stage, see how they're doing, see whether they're executing to what they say they're doing, and then really get a more complete picture of maybe that initial challenge where if they don't do a good job of presenting that first time, you can at least see, okay, they're maybe the story they didn't, they're nervous or whatever, but hey, they were actually really doing what they set out to do, and that's very impressive.
So it sounds like local investors have a huge job to play in being able to present your own portfolio to international investors as well.
Yeah, for example, this guy, this gentleman, sitting at our co-working space a couple of times already, and we have a chance to update him what is happening right now with this 34 team right now, and sometimes we can make some appointment. He can walk around, pop up with this some founder who's sitting there and have more casual in talking, and that's it. This relationship is bonding at the beginning, and after a while, he got updated from the founder, and at the end of the day, who knows, right?
But it's both ways, right? So in Cocoon, we cover Southeast Asia. So we do a lot of active engagement and outreach. So we travel incessantly between the three partners. And with this relationship building over time, maybe the first time you're awkward, you're nervous, getting to know them. Then the second, third time, they are excited to see you. They're excited to update, to give you updates on their new KPIs, new milestones. And by the time you think they're ready for funding, both of you are more comfortable with each other, and everyone wins.
Yeah, and
right?
I think one more thing is it's also a two-way street, right? It's not just us just saying, hey, update us, but also being able to show that we can add some value in that conversation, right? Whether it's just advice or whether it's maybe an introduction to someone that's that could be of help to them. So I think the more that we also show to the startups that hey, we don't want to just take from you all the time, but we also want to be able to help support you. The more comfortable they feel in that relationship over time.
You raise a very good point. I think the local partnership is very, very important. I knew Gree Venture at the beginning, and now I knew Albert, and now I knew you. So every time, I know your style already. You love B2B, you love healthcare, so you have the health tech portfolio in my head. Hey, I have one company. Do you interest? I just simply send them the deck, right? So once you got a local to screen out for you guys already, rather than you need to take a look on 600 application like myself. Please give me some commission, okay? So 600 application like myself, and select only 12 for you guys already. That B2B, this one is good for Cocoon. That just send to her, and let's start first meeting and things like that, right?
Right now, there seems to be a system in place in terms of being able to make referrals for portfolio companies. But do you think that Thailand's growth is coming at the right time or at a very inopportune time? Because funding volumes across Asia are going lower this year. Consolidation is already happening in other countries in Southeast Asia. In Thailand, do you think that that's going to be a barrier, or is that an opportunity?
Wow, this one is a very good question. Before this afternoon, at the beginning, if you take a look for the the total amount of Thai funding amount, it's growing 100 times. From 2 million at that time is Mu Ukbi, right? If I'm not wrong, at that time only 2 million in 2012, and now last year is 236 million already. So it's meaning keep growing. And one thing is if you take a look on the company valuations, it's still considered cheap compared to the rest of the country in Southeast Asia. The same product, the same startup, if launched in Thailand, you get the lower valuation compared if you launch in the other market. So that means for the VC itself, right? A lot of good friends from Japan, they love to fly over to Southeast Asia, especially Thailand, besides of the travel things, right? So he loved the company here is it's good founder, good business model, and the price really cheap compared to the rest, right? So I still very optimistic for the Thai startup ecosystem and still growing. You can see a lot like this kind of like event, like going forward we have like TechSource Summit and Digital Big Bang, whatever that is upcoming, and a lot of good startup is coming up. Yeah.
So I'm quite biased, right? Because I'm Thai as well, and I'm very optimistic. So I think we've got a lot of things going for us. We've got great solid infrastructure. We've got fast, very dependable internet connectivity. We've got very high mobile penetration. And of course, with the strong government support initiatives like this, whether it be resources or events like that, to showcase to the global audience, our startups, I think now the Thai tech community is stronger than it's ever been, for sure.
It's the best time to do startup in Thailand
for sure.
right now.
It's the best time. The momentum, the traction is gain momentum, and it's just really good. And then, like going forward, I see a lot of people supporting and people in the region, investors coming more to Thailand to look for investment opportunities for sure. But Indonesia and in Vietnam and also in Singapore are also ramping up to go to the next level. So everyone is doing that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, I would say Thailand is probably our second or third priority in all of Southeast Asia. Like Indonesia will still be the first just because of the size and the strategic value there. But Thailand is the only other place that I travel to, like I think on a monthly basis. And partly it's because we have portfolio, but also the other reason is, I think we remain really excited about what's going on in the ecosystem. We want to be part of that. We want to get more visibility into up-and-coming companies, and so yeah, I think we're also quite bullish about what's going on here.
So in terms of like valuation still being fair, a lot of entrepreneurs here being very talented, is that the reason why you were saying earlier that the funding amount and the funding volume in Thailand is just enough? Like,
Yes,
do you think
exactly.
that too much funding is going to be hurting entrepreneurs as well?
I put it this way. The good startup, at the end of the day, we get the funding from the good VC, right? But if there is too much funding, so some funding will going to some startup that probably it shouldn't get the funding at the beginning. They should finding the product market fit, and at the end of the day, if the product that they do is not good enough, they should fail first. So if they fail very fast, it's not hurting that much. But again, if you got too much funding, some funding need to put in some place, right? So those startups, they will get some kind of funding, and they still survive for another 12 months. So it's not good for the ecosystem. They should fail fast, and they can learn and be back more stronger, right? Rather than stay another 12 months like a zombie, and at the end of the day, another 12 months, oh shit, I'm not doing good, right?
Yeah, so following on to that, right? I mean, so now that we've gained quite good traction in the past few years in terms of the whole ecosystem and the support and the framework and everything. So the investors who've done their seed investment round a couple of years ago should by now have a very good sense of where the startups will be, whether aiming for Series A or how do they take this forward if the company is struggling. I mean, it's not an easy conversation to have, these sort of difficult conversations, but it's just something that you have to do. And, basically consolidation, so the zombies will fizzle and go. And I think it's, in a way, it's very good cleansing experience for the whole ecosystem. And it's just not tech. You see that in other industries as well, right?
But it's hard not to try and process or prevent companies from failing, especially if you are invested in them, or I guess from the perspective of the government as well, because these are your local entrepreneurs. So with the threat, or I'd say the entry of Silicon Valley darlings into Asia, do you find that there are things that local entrepreneurs should be doing to prepare for that?
I think the only thing that local entrepreneurs should do is doing their product, that get shit done. and sell the product, right? Find the customer, going out to talk to the customer, growing like, for example, I always raise this example like team like Phenomena, which is one of our hottest fintech of the year for the past years. Within 6 months, they can now get the traction 1.8 billion Thai baht already within 6 months because of they're focusing on what they're doing and talking to the customer a lot of things. They knew a lot about like this Silicon Valley darling and a lot of support from the government, but to be honest, they leave that behind and they stop like, okay, what I need to do is go out to the customer, test my product, validating if it's good or not. And now 1.8 billion traction within 6 months. What is happening with this fintech guy in Thailand? It's never happened before, right? Yeah.
But that's good because the entrepreneurs here, they know this is their local market. So a lot of times founders start to solve problems within their local market first, and like in Thailand, and they tend not to really think about the sort of the growth strategy. But now the conversation around scalability, hence this event, scalability, how do you grow cross borders within the region, is quite common, and the VCs would expect to have that sort of conversation, and now it's known. So it takes some time for you to start to launch a startup, and what you know is just what you know down the road and in your neighborhood, which is fair. But now if you need to go further, you need to look for bigger markets and growth opportunities. So it's all coming along, wonderfully, I think,
So does this advice hold true, Albert, until you get to like Series B and you're worrying about scaling and expansion?
So I think so. I mean, I agree that I think at the early stage, really, the company should just focus on getting it right in that market, right? And I think that's one of the biggest challenges entrepreneurs tend to have is there's always too many distractions. And so, in a sense, yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, but at the same time, your company is very small and you have very limited resources. And so one of the biggest challenges most entrepreneurs face is how do I allocate my time and how do I prioritize properly? I think once they get to Series A, Series B stage, the expectation is they should have a business model that is working. They should obviously have traction, revenues, customers. And so then the question is, what do they want to do next? Do they want to go really deep into that country? Do they want to kind of expand into different product categories? Do they want to expand overseas with the same business model? And I think when we talk to companies at that stage, that's a discussion that we always have with them, right? Because it helps build the investment thesis and obviously the strategy of the company, and the two need to be aligned. And
yeah, I think when the startups are considering from seed to Series A or B, already by then you should know how, if your product is sticky, who are your customer profiles, how you're going to grow. So from being very, very focused on what you do in your local market, how you started off with, the next question would be, how do I grow? And then you can tell that story to a Series A, Series B investor and convince them, right?
So do Thai companies have the same luxury as, say, Indonesian companies in terms of just staying in the market and saying we're going to go deep and we're going to stay and grow ourselves just in Thailand? The same way that Gojek can say, for example, that we're going to expand in Indonesia, it's 250 million people.
I think from a regional perspective, from a regional investor's perspective, they don't. So Indonesia is the one country in Southeast Asia where you can do that, and investors will not argue with the entrepreneur.
250 million over there is good enough.
Yeah.
No need to expand, right? Like China, right? They think in their own country is like.
When you look at the actual number of people that are paying, and it's much smaller, but still you can sell the story. But I think Thailand, as with Vietnam, Malaysia, all these other markets, if you're looking at Series B type of funding, in most cases, I would say 75-80% of the time, there's an expectation that you're going beyond Thailand to build a company.
Doesn't that kind of contradict what we were talking about earlier, that they should just then be focusing on what they're doing? If they do not have the luxury to stay in this market, then are they supposed to be worried about regional competitors growing bigger?
Okay, put it this way. They need to think and design the product business model as a think globally day one, but they can execute local first. If you ask me personally, most of I would say 80% of our startup under portfolio, they think globally and they execute in local first. They want to test the market, their assumption, everything right for Thailand. Like for example, like claim deed now, like start with Thai, insurance tech first, and now expand to a couple of countries, Nigeria, Malaysia, and Singapore right now, like 3 more countries. Pikipo also, Malaysia is next country, but there's all of them start in Thailand. Or even like phenomena just now I just mentioned is about wealth management stuff. They start in Thailand first, but who knows? They're crossing 1.8 billion. Within this year, probably cross another 3 billion. With that amount of traction, with that amount of data analysis and things like that, they're using the machine learning and AI, everything all together. Why not? They can expand to the rest of the country in Southeast Asia, right? Which is have more like culture-wise almost the same, like rather than like Europe or UK, right? Like Malaysia will be next, Myanmar will be next.
Do you agree, Manchita?
Yeah, and it's also just thinking, with the very low barrier of, entry now, it's really cheap to launch a company, to launch a product, to test features. Focus is key. Time is not on your side. It will never be on your side. Focus, do the things that sticky, get the right customer profile, and do it really well, get some good traction, and then look beyond your local market.
But I think that's one, like saying that companies now and establishing them are cheap would be very vertical specific. I think one of the more interesting things in the conference as well is this like huge part of the exhibition hall dedicated to agri-tech, which doesn't tend to be cheap at all, both time-wise as well as resource-wise. Do you find that this vertical, for example, would be one thing that you'd like to pay more attention to in the next few years?
My opinion personally, for the past 4 or 5 years, what I want to see for the Thai startup is agriculture tech. But unfortunately, for the past 4 batch, we didn't see that much until like last year and this year. We got the one MIT guys, is a Thai, like back from the MIT. Now they're launching the agriculture tech about this together with fintech, the machine learning, the imaging processing from the satellite and stuff like that. Launched in Pakistan already, launched in Thailand. We need this kind of people and back to the Thailand and bring all of those knowledge like this, like machine learning, processing image from satellite, stuff like that, from those MIT folks that founding together, bring and use it in Thailand, found a company in Thailand. Because if Thailand want to compete about the fintech with Singapore and Hong Kong, obviously not. Even like e-commerce with China, probably obviously not, right? But I truly believe that if we want to compete, like to be number 1 in the world for the agriculture tech, we have everything ready in our own country here. And I saw that upcoming from these young tech people from the Thai startup ecosystem, but still very little. We need a lot of more of this kind of like energetic and this kind of profiles of people to doing this. Yeah.
So, Montita, do you agree, or do you think it's other
I'm very
verticals?
supportive, of course, that because Thailand, we are an agriculture industry. That's the fabric of our nation. But it is hard. It takes a lot of money. It takes a long time. And this is our first fund. My LPs are not that patient people. They want, quick, scalable, viral, high growth digital companies. So, and that in itself does not fit the description of agri-tech.
Our recount, our existing batch, the 5th batch, is fit to your expand. Already have in Pakistan 100,000 customers there, and here in Thailand happening now. Another 100,000 customers, very quick.
So what can be done to bridge that gap?
Sorry?
What can be done to bridge that gap in terms of like, this is where you think the focus vertical should be. This is where you could focus on as a VC. What can be done to bridge that gap?
For us, honestly, in terms of the amount of funding that is needed for agri-tech, it will be out of our scope, right? For a lot of VCs, I think, even with the top VCs, the ticket size is between maybe 100 to $500,000 to $1 million, and that's not enough. So that's a seed stage. And then, whereas you need to see if those companies who got grants or funding and support from the government take it to the next level, and then there's to be Series A, Series B, and that is that sort of size that we're looking at, and they need that to go further.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is also going back to the topic of partnerships, right? Finding the right partners who can help those types of companies, whether it's agriculture or otherwise. I think that's important. And I think especially a sector like ag tech, where, yeah, I think there's actually a ton of impact. I mean, we were actually quite interested to look at that sector the past year as well, but it's very early stage, and I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. And so it's finding the right partners who can maybe help with distribution, who can maybe help with kind of access to the user base, which I think is sometimes definitely not as easy as kind of the urban markets. I think finding partners, even investors that are maybe a bit more patient. So maybe that's corporate, maybe that's government, or maybe that's like an impact type of fund where you're measuring your the ROI not just in terms of pure financial, but also a couple of other factors as well. That's one possibility to kind of bridge that gap until the sector becomes, I think, a bit more developed and can take on, I guess, more traditional VC type of funding.
Yeah, there are also like, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are also funds which would look to invest in like impactful, startups like the ones that's funded by, IMF or ADB, that sort of way, right?
Our key takeaway for today really has to center around and revolve around stronger partnerships, both locally and internationally for Thailand. Yeah. So I guess we have room for just one more question. I just want to ask you guys quickly, in the next 1 to 2 years, should we be expecting DTAC, Cocoon, as well as Brito to be making an investment in Thailand?
Yes.
Of course.
So fast.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, put it this way. We are going to announce a very big news in a couple of days on the series A, but a very big A.
Can I get the news in advance?
Yes, of course.
You
Of
promised
course.
that.
Plug-in. That's a plug-in
I
right
have this
there.
Of course.
That's a plug-in
course.
right there.
So
Everyone will know
this
it.
is going to be broken and
From
attacked in
your
Asia
good friend
first.
in Japan. I cannot say that out loud.
And therefore,
Cool.
that is a very good wrap-up. Thank you so much, guys, for being here today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. That was Tech in Asia at Startup Thailand. And the topic was how Thailand's investment landscape is evolving. So